Raise your hand if you can hear me. Very good. Okay. So good morning. We have a few guests this morning. Let's see, not there. Chris DiBiasio, how'd I do? Pretty good. Is still a guest, not for much longer. And Amanda, I didn't get your last name, Amanda. Amanda Vincent is here from the Shelburne Charlotte Heinsberg Rotary. Too many names. And Elena is here again. So welcome to all of you. We're going to start with a Rotary Minute from Dan.
Thanks, Sally. All in all, would you say things are getting better or things are getting worse? So somebody did a survey around the world, and in Sweden, for example, only 10% of people thought things were getting better. Turns out they were optimists, because in the US it's only 6%. But you know, actually many of the things that we would measure, the world is getting better. Pollution, for example, if you look at the major pollutants, they're down by 78% since 1970. Right? What was that book, Silent Spring? That was that time, right? Smoking, down 75% since about the same time. Teen pregnancies, down 77%. Cancer deaths are down 32% just since 1991. That's 3.5 million people that are alive today that didn't die of cancer if they were still dying at the same rate as 1991. And internationally, measures like extreme poverty, literacy, child mortality, all are vastly improved in our lifetimes. Closer to home in 1894, that's the year before my grandmother was born, so I feel like I could almost reach out there, was the first documented outbreak of polio in the United States. And it was here in Vermont. 18 people died, 132 were permanently paralyzed. 1916, just before World War I, there was a major outbreak in New York City. 2,000 people died. 1960, the vaccine was approved, the oral vaccine. We probably all had that as kids. And in 1979 is when Rotary International began its fight. It was eliminated from the Americas, and today Rotary members have given over $2 billion has been raised by Rotary members around the world, and the cases of polio in the world have been reduced by 99.9%. So why do I mention all that? It's not to say the problems of the world are solved. We got lots of problems. Well, one of the great things about Rotary is that it allows us and gives us a opportunity to improve the world, working with our fellow earthlings around the world. And there's plenty of data to show in polio and other things, we can improve the world. So I just want to say opportunity that we have as Rotary members is a really great thing. And it's hard to think sometimes that the world is actually better than it was, but it is, and largely due to people just like you and me doing things through Rotary. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. That was a great reminder. I think we lose track of what happened even 10, 15, 20 years ago. So when you have the perspective of 30, 50, 100 years ago, that's very helpful. Thank you. Armand is going to give us an inspiration.
Good morning, everyone. My inspiration this morning is about fundraising. I found this and I thought it was very interesting. Hands for Help founder Bilal Rajan began his fundraising when he was 4 years old, selling clementines door to door in his neighborhood to raise money for victims of the earthquake in Jagannath province of India in 2001. He later sold handmade plastic plates, raising $1,200 for HIV/AIDS orphans. He sold cookies and raised $6,000 for people of the hurricane devastation in Haiti. He raised $50,000 for victims of the tsunami in Southeast Asia, and more than $50,000 for the World Partnership Walk. In 2004, Rajin launched the Canadian Kids Earthquake Challenge with UNICEF, raising a total for the tsunami relief up to around $1.8 million. Remember, this is a 4-year-old. He's progressively getting a little older, but still. To date, he has raised over $5 million for causes. Rajin's model is together we can make a difference. His confidence and passion for what he does has inspired kids across the globe to join him and make a difference.
Thank you, Armand, and thank you for picking fundraising. It's appropriate. Speaking of fundraising, I'm going to start at this table passing out fundraising letters. Take what you need and pass it on. And hopefully the biggest stack will end up with Sherry, who is on her way to becoming our Rajesh.
Yeah, I don't know if any of the money's come in yet, so.
Right, promises, right?
Copies are compliments of Phil.
Yep, we need to thank Phil for that, right?
Yes, Phil's donation to the club.
Next week, our meeting is a business meeting and we have one classification talk, which should be very interesting. I need to pass the hat. We're going to try to raise a little money. Separated from the tickets. We're gonna collect a little money for the race timer for the 5K race in July. Otherwise known as Marty's new toy. So while you're passing fundraising letters. pass the hat. We're also going to have another hat passing probably in a couple of weeks. Once again, our Rotary Club is going to buy baseball tickets to the Lake Monsters for the mentoring program. What we did last year for the first time is we gave every mentee 2 tickets, open-ended. They could go to any game they wanted. And it was given to them at the end of the year for their, their final picnic. They loved it. They were over the moon about baseball tickets. And so we're going to do it again. So in a couple of weeks, I'll give you some warnings so you can bring your wallets.
How much is this total? They're about what, 60?
53. We're going to buy 106 tickets. So it's going to be a lot of money. I don't have the exact number, but I will. Yeah. I want to remind you all that May 6th is going to be a very busy day. May 6th is Green Up Day. We're going to have a booth at the town fair. Sherry's got a team of people that will be greening up. And it's our blood drive. So if you don't wear yourself out greening up or sitting at the town fair table, please think about giving a pint of blood. We did not get posters for this one, so we can only advertise by word of mouth and Front Porch Forum. So please, if you have friends that have given before, yes, Leslie? Okay. If you have friends that have given before, or if you've given before, if you have family members that have given before, try to get them to give on May 6th. It's easy enough to sign up on redcross.org. And I think that's all I have.
What did you say about Front Porch Forum? We couldn't post that?
We can, we just don't have posters. We've had physical posters and I haven't gotten any. Yes, Sharon.
Can I say something about the Green Up?
Yes, you can.
Real quick.
Yeah.
So on Green Up Day, May 6th, we haven't really come up with what time we're starting, but we're going to be doing Marshall Ave
So I worked with, I think his name's Andrew, sorry. Andrew, yes. So there's an app, if you go on, you can download the Green Up Vermont app, and we were able to mark the area that we're gonna be doing. Since he opened it and signed us up, it's actually under his name, Andrew Plum, but it's listed as the Williston-Richmond Rotary Club. Once you get to the app, you can look up, you can find our team. So we'll be doing martial ave, so it's not really steep. It gives us good visibility. We can wear our hats, and Leslie has some signs and vests and whatever. So if you're able to help out, that'd be great. And then I'll find out from Armin if he connected with the boys. There was a group of boys that were interested in working with us. I don't know if it meant working with us to help clean up or if they have their own area. I think Marshall Ave's long enough that it'd be fine to have another group of people to work with. So anyone that can sign up, be great. And I would assume we'd probably be starting around 8 or 9 or something.
Okay, so be here around 8 or.
No, we'll find a spot on Marshall Ave to park.
Okay.
Something maybe that's not open early on a Saturday morning where we can park. Maybe I'll just work on getting permission and the tire place or somewhere. So, okay.
Did you get a good photo before you get started in this photo?
We'll see if we can remember that, because our priority is all about cleaning up. So, and there were posters. I know we put some posters. If you stop at town hall and you if you think you can find someone that'll put a Green Up poster up. I got quite a few up. I was a bit disappointed in the businesses that wouldn't let me put up a Green Up Vermont poster. They're actually out there, like the new cookie store and a few places. The cookie store. Lenny's was on the back. They have a bulletin board out back, but like the Felino's Pizza let me put one up. I noticed Healthy Living already had one up. So, some of the corporate businesses don't allow it. Domino's Pizza, they wouldn't let me. But you ask. I just think it's really important that we Green Up Vermont. And when I was at my conference last week, I went to this one little conversation they were having about like OT in the wild and bringing OT out. And when people are living in cities, it's like a big thing to them to be able to go outside, right? And so I talked about, I know some conversation came up about later your area do, and I was able to mention that Vermont does Green Up Vermont and has for like 20, 50 something crazy years. And I had people actually come up to me and get information just like, what is it? Green Up Vermont. They went home and like they're looking it up because they want to model it. So I think we should be proud of that. And it's a really cool thing. So yeah.
Yes, well, my question is, I'm still trying to figure out how things work, okay?
Oh, we all are.
So you need people for Green Up,
Yes.
and you need people for the booth?
Do you, Leslie? You need people for the
Yes,
table?
we do. We had 4 people sign up. Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. We had 4 people sign up. I don't have that in front of me, but yes, there's always a need to have people at the town fair because we need people to man the booth or person the booth, and we also need people who are willing to wander around and look at other booths and talk to people. So
What's the time frame on the booth?
the booth is officially 8 to 12, but we need people to set up, at least in terms of parking close, you can only park close to unload until 7:30. So Elizabeth, what are we thinking for setup?
To get there, 7:30, I guess.
So anyone on Zoom, if you're interested in helping set up for the town,
Elizabeth.
okay.
Our vehicles need to leave by 7:30 is what Susan says, so I guess.
Okay, so vehicles have to leave by 7:30. So, but if you're interested in working at the town center for the table, the booth, be there at 8. And then clean up, and then after Green Up Day, last year, I went over
Yeah, so
to,
that's
to,
what the thing I was asking, you probably only, Marshall Ave isn't that big, if you have enough people, it's gonna be like an hour or something.
Marshall Ave was pretty long.
Maybe
No,
two,
Yeah, it could,
But
Yeah.
still, it's not gonna be 4 hours.
no, yeah, and then we can go over to the town center after.
Got it, thank you.
Yep.
You have to be sure that you get to the town center by 11 for the town band concert.
Ah, the town band concert's at 11, okay.
Big day, Charlie. To set up and to help Elizabeth at the beginning, because sadly and happily, Armand and I will have to be out of town. So. we're in this.
Okay,
I don't think Zoom heard anything.
okay, so if you're on Zoom, if you're interested in helping at the town fair, which is on the green in front of the school, it would be good for you to come at 7 to help Elizabeth set up. Because the cars have to be away by 7:30. The thing starts at 8, it ends at 12, and people need to help break down at noon. So whatever you can do will be great. Okay?
But the lab is at 8 o'clock or?
Well, by next week, Sherry's going to have a time for you to meet and a place for you to park, right, Sherry?
Right.
Yeah. And if it,
Blood drive is like a bloodmobile?
no, the blood drive is at the Church of the Nazarene on Route 2A, Essex Road. And it runs from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Basically across from Agway, close to Agway, other side of the road.
Yep.
We say across from the Habitat Restore now.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So I think without further ado, we'll have our speaker.
I printed this out from what Susan had put on the website, and I noticed that Access Self-Storage of Williston is a sponsor for our website, and so isn't Stewart's household improvements. And there's plenty of room if more people want to support the website. You can support it as a business or as individuals. And I think if you saw Susan or Jeannie, they could help you out with that. That's the little commercial. Like everything nowadays, you have to listen to a commercial before you get down to anything. Today, we're very fortunate to have one of our own as our speaker, Dr. Elizabeth Davidson. She grew up in northern Vermont and has struggled with chronic illnesses her whole life. Her love of skiing and being active outside has spurred her to always search for solutions for her multiple struggles, and has turned into a career for her. After a short stint in elementary special education, she decided to pursue a career in chiropractic. After earning her doctorate in 2006, she began a private practice. The COVID situation spurred her to push her business in the direction of doing it virtually. She is now certified as a functional blood work specialist and expertise in nutrition and plant medicine. As a holistic doctor, she sees health as a puzzle. By putting the pieces together, she helps solve people's chronic illnesses and autoimmune disorders. And she has a website on here. We'll get that out to you sometime. Elizabeth is an avid skier, and she and her daughter Elena completed the Long Trail in 2020. I give you Dr. Elizabeth Davidson.
For sure. The long trail actually was completed on Elena's 12th birthday. So it was a pretty exciting day. Okay, thank you so much, Armand, for inviting me to speak today. This is really neat to be able to speak to my hometown group here. So I want to start out by uplifting everyone's senses with a little wild orange oil. So this is a pure essential oil. It's from the peel of the wild orange. And what I love to have people do is you can either smell it from the bottle like this, or you can put a drop in your hand and rub it together and do this. This is the best way to do it. But notice how you feel before you smell it and after you smell it, and just file that away and tell me later, okay? All right, I'm going to pass this around. Okay. So, so I came to working in health because I've been sick my whole life, and chronic illness is really hard. And I feel like it's really misunderstood also. And lots of people who have chronic illness, if they go try to get help for that, they're told that it's all in their heads, or they need to reduce stress in their lives. Anyone ever heard that one? Or you just have to live with it, or you're given medications to help alleviate the symptoms, which often then give you more symptoms on top of that. I don't think any of these are really good solutions for someone who wants to stay active and do the best they can with their lives. I guess they're okay if you have the time to sit at home a lot and not really do much, but that is not me. So how I look at this is a couple of ways. So first, what I want to find out is, where does chronic illness come from? Because it's not a diagnosis. Like, that doesn't really give you much information. I've been told I have fibromyalgia. I've been told I have chronic fatigue syndrome. What does that do for me? Nothing. It gives me a label for a problem. I don't find that to be a solution. So I like to kind of flip that around and look at it differently. So one of the things I come back to often is that you have to reduce stress thing. Well, what is stress? Stress is something that we have to adapt to. And now I want to go in the Wayback Machine and take you back to high school biology. You remember the 5 signs of life? Sally does, right? Come on. Well, one of them, you're a doctor. Okay, well, I'm not going to give you a quiz, but one of them is adaptation. The other ones are like assimilation and elimination, like you eat things and you get rid of them, that kind of thing. Reproduction. Sound familiar? Yeah. Okay, well, I think the most important one is adaptation, because it's what we're doing all the time. Because you're never going to not have stress in your life. But the key is that you are healthy enough to adapt to it, and then you can grow from it. Because if you never had stress, you would never grow. Make sense? So you don't have anything to adapt to. So, that being told over and over again to reduce stress in my life. Like, how do you even do that? Like, I'm a single mom, I have a business, I have a home to take care of. I can't get rid of any of those things. They all cause me stress, but I can't get rid of them. But then those are all external stresses, and there's a whole other side to stress, and that's internal stress. And I feel like that is a key to changing your health, because you can change what's stressful on the inside. Now, when I talk about internal stress, I'm talking about things like having underlying infections that are taking a lot of your energy that you're fighting all the time. I find this often in blood work. Also, like having your gut not be healthy. About 80% of your immune system is located in your gut. And if you've ever taken antibiotics, or if you've ever had alcohol, these types of things, or an overload of sugar, these types of things will destroy your gut flora. So your gut's not going to be as healthy as it could be. So these are internal stresses. Those are just a couple examples. But if we can access those and heal those, take the stress off on the inside, then you have capacity to handle the outside stress. So I look at it as we all have like a threshold of stress. Like, we can all handle, say, this much stress. If your internal stress is if you have infections and poor gut health and not great nutrition and you don't sleep well and all of that, so your internal stresses are already way up here, right below your threshold. If you have anything else, it's going to put you into illness. So here is where you can still function. And if you go over that, you're in illness. So then if your car breaks down and you're already right here, that's a big stress, and you're going to be put into symptoms. So my work, a lot of it is to take down that internal stress, get rid of any infections that might be lingering. And when I say infections, I don't necessarily mean that you're like actively sick and have a fever. But when I look into someone's blood work, I can see that their white blood cells, which are the blood cells that fight infection, are elevated or decreased. And then all the different types of white blood cells, those tell me what kind of infections are going on. And I find those in pretty much every set of blood work that I look at. So if we can take care of those and then get your gut functioning again, it takes your internal stress way down so that your stress levels may be down here, like knee level. And you can have that much more capacity to live your life because you're always going to have stuff in your life. I mean, you can't not have kids anymore if you already have them. Kids are stressful, right? And wonderful. But you can't not have a career anymore. You have to do stuff with your life that's going to cause stress. So being able to handle stress and adapt to it, that is one of the keys to health. And our bodies are really amazing. They're doing stuff to help us adapt all the time. Like most of you just ate breakfast, right? What are you doing with all that food now? Your body's just taking care of it. Your body's breaking down all that stuff that you put in your mouth, and it's sending stuff to your liver, so your liver can send out all the nutrients where they need to go, where they're going to be most effective. It's going to separate out the things that you don't need and push that out the other end. And you don't have to think about any of that. Your body just does it. It's pretty miraculous. You have so much healing power. For someone to be given a diagnosis and say that they can never get well, that they're going to have it forever, I think that's one of the worst things because we have so much healing power in our bodies. I know, like myself, I created a human. I know a lot of people in here have. Like, how amazing is that you can grow a whole new person? I think you can heal your whatever. I mean, I'm sure I can heal my fibromyalgia and my chronic fatigue syndrome and my migraines and all of this stuff. I created her. Look how amazing she is. So we have so much healing power, and I don't feel like that gets recognized enough in our current medical system. One of the things that often gets blamed for a lot of things in our medical system is inflammation. Everyone wants to take down inflammation. It's been presented as such a problem in so many illnesses. Like, you name an illness that inflammation isn't a problem in. It's hard to find one. But inflammation, if you think about it, has anyone like sprained an ankle or a wrist or something? Yeah, what happened? It swelled up. It hurt. Think about that. That's inflammation. That swelling is bringing fluid and nutrients to that injured area to help it heal. It's also a natural splint, and it hurts, so you remember to not use it. That's really smart. So inflammation is a really smart thing. Unfortunately, lots of us who have internal stresses in our bodies, we have inflammation in our systems because that inflammation is really working hard to heal, but we don't have the right information to get that healing to complete. So the inflammation keeps staying and causing us problems because, as you can imagine, it takes a lot of energy to heal. So if you're inflamed all the time, you're going to be tired all the time, and your body's just going to be working really hard. But if we can get that inflammation all the information that it needs to work, it can heal what it's trying to heal, and then it goes away because that's its job. That's what inflammation is for. So what I've found in my career and all my thinking about how to be healthier and how to help people be healthier is that our bodies are always doing the best they can with the information that they have. So we're always working to get well. We're digesting our food, we're breathing, we're healing, whether it's a little scratch on your arm or a sprained wrist or a broken leg. Our bodies are going to heal that. Like, we know how to do this. And so by giving our bodies better information, we can heal better and then feel better, of course. But lots of times we're not given that perspective, I feel like. If you go get a diagnosis and then get a medication to address those symptoms that you have, you're kind of just overriding those symptoms, which symptoms are really good information. Like, they tell you a lot if you think about them. If you think about why you're having these symptoms, what are they telling you? What is your body doing with the information it has? It's doing the best it can. But if we just get rid of those symptoms, we're not really getting to the bottom of the problem. So my work, it's all about getting to the bottom of the problem and rebuilding from the ground up. I know some of you have some experience in working construction-y kind of things. What's the most important part of a building? Foundation. Yay. Yay, Chris. He passes the test. The roof is important, but you're not gonna have a roof without a foundation. So my work is all about digging deep into what is actually going on, like what's missing in the foundation for someone's health. It's not about saying, okay, you have these symptoms and then putting a name on that. When I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, it was actually such a huge light bulb for me, because I went in and I'm like, my joints hurt, my muscles hurt, I'm tired all the time. And they told me I had fibromyalgia. Well, fibro is fibers, myo translates to muscle, and algia is pain. So they basically just told me what I told them, but in a different language. I was like, why? This doesn't make any sense. This doesn't help. So what that then shifted for me is that I want to be like, well, why do I have all this pain? Why do I feel so terrible all the time? Well, it's not because I have fibromyalgia. That's just the result. That's the name for it. That doesn't give me anything really. So I've been searching for the past like 35 years to figure out, where the foundation goes wrong. For me personally, like I also had a lot of immune trouble when I was little, so I took lots of antibiotics. So I was on antibiotics several times a year throughout my whole childhood. So I feel like, okay, my gut health was ruined from the time I was tiny. Well, if 80% of your immune system is located in your gut, and then you wind up with autoimmune disorders. Autoimmune means that your immune system is fighting against yourself. How is that surprising? Not really. And so many of us, I grew up in the 80s. The 80s, I feel like were prime time for pumping people full of antibiotics. Now, of course, we have antibiotic resistant bacteria and stuff because we used a lot of antibiotics and maybe we shouldn't have. But a lot of people my age, so I'm 45, and a lot of women especially, like I went to this Women's Health and Wellness Expo last year that I spoke at, and almost every single woman I talked to was about my age and had an autoimmune disorder, whether it was lupus or fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue or even multiple sclerosis, like all of these things. And I'm like, why is everyone so sick? Well, I feel like it's because we never really looked at the foundation of their health. We were just trying to get rid of the symptoms. And with years and years and years of that, taking this medication or that medication, plus, not eating the greatest diets. Like, fortunately, I grew up with big gardens, but I remember going to my friends' houses and it was just like ramen and Kraft mac and cheese and Velveeta. And like, none of this is even real food. Like, how do you like take antibiotics all the time and then eat food like that and expect to be healthy? I don't know. So by going back and helping people find where their foundation got like messed up, that's how I help them rebuild from the bottom up. One of the people that I worked with recently, she was diagnosed with hemochromatosis, which is a disorder, an autoimmune disorder where your body stores too much iron. So it causes your joints to have a lot of pain and not work very well. Also, like a lot of sensitivity to foods. Like she would, whenever she ate something, like she ate a piece of pizza, she would be all itchy and like kind of feverish after. Like it makes your body really hot. And it's genetic. And I'll get into genes in a minute. But why does that happen? And where did that come from? So in talking with her, I always start with a really in-depth case history. And I asked her when that diagnosis was. And this was in 2022 that we were talking. And she said she got diagnosed with hemochromatosis it was about 10 years ago. I'm like, okay, so file that away. We keep talking. And then I was like, well, have you had any like big emotional stresses in the past 20 years or so, or anything really stand out to you, or any changes in like medications or big changes in diet or anything like that? She's like, yeah, in 2012, I got diagnosed with thyroid disorder and I was put on a thyroid medication and I got divorced. I was like, well, 2012, that was 10 years ago. And you got diagnosed with hemochromatosis 10 years ago. So then I asked her, well, what were these things that happened in 2012? Can you remember if they were before your hemochromatosis diagnosis? And they were. I'm like, oh, well, isn't that interesting? So you had these big events, these big stressful events, and then you got diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder. So in thinking about it that way, and she's like, well, it's genetic. I know, but genetics are a blueprint, and they have to have the right environmental factors to be turned on. I don't know if any of you have read Bruce Lipton's work or seen his work. Highly recommend look at Bruce Lipton, Biology of Belief. But he proved that genes don't necessarily have one expression. It's the environment that makes them express the way they express. So yeah, she had the gene for hemochromatosis. Okay, fine. But why did that suddenly get turned on? Well, she had all these stressful events, a new medication, a big emotional event, and then it happened. So we went back and looked at what happened, helped. I was like, well, are you past this emotionally? Are you past your divorce emotionally? And she said she was. I'm like, okay. So she really let go of that, and associating that with her diagnosis was a big thing in her mind. And so I think that was part of it, but also looked at her blood work, because I always do that. And Armand mentioned that I'm a functional blood work specialist. So what that means is I don't look at just normal ranges like you would go see from your MD. I look at, it's a bit of a smaller range, and also the relationships between the numbers. So it's less about, are you normal, and more about, how is everything fitting together? Like in my intro, the puzzle part. I love that part. So I looked at her blood work, and I did find evidence of various infections going on. I believe she had a parasitic infection and a viral infection. Not as unusual as it sounds. I find it in most people. And so addressed that with some herbal supplements that I work with a company that is kind of on the cutting edge of developing very effective supplements, and we go back and forth a lot, and cleared out those infections, did a gut reset, and she doesn't get her hemochromatosis symptoms anymore. They were gone within 6 months. And so yeah, she still has the gene for that, but we fixed the foundation, and so she doesn't have those symptoms anymore. So that's what I love doing. Like, she was told she was going to have it forever, but she doesn't anymore. Maybe she could still get diagnosed with it. I don't know. Does it matter? I don't think so. She feels great, and she's able to do everything that she wants to do with her life. So I don't really believe that diagnosis is like a life sentence. I think there's a lot of ways to fix the foundation and not have to live with that diagnosis anymore. I hope someone's keeping track of time for me, because I could probably talk about this all day. Okay, so how much time do I have?
A couple more minutes.
Okay. So how do I help? I guess we'll skip right to that. And of course, if anyone has questions, I love answering questions. So I do a couple things. So I still do practice a little bit of chiropractic. I do it out of my house for people that I really like. So I guess everyone in this room would qualify if you ever want that. My chiropractic care is not the typical twisty, cracky stuff that people are familiar with, the stuff that, you have, your back hurts or your neck needs to pop and you go there and get it popped. I don't do that. The kind of chiropractic I do is super gentle, because it's all about helping your nerves function better. So brain, spinal cord, and nerves are the communication system in your body. And when that's working really well, then all the communication in your body works better. And so everything can work better. So the kind of chiropractic I do is gentle enough to be done on newborns. I've worked on lots and lots of newborns, including one over there. And yeah, it helps your whole body function better. So when your nerves work better, everything works better. So I do that. I used to do that full time, but COVID made it really hard to touch people. And I couldn't not work for as long as that was taking. So I shifted and started a virtual practice. So the virtual practice, and I work with people in person if they're here, but I can work all over the country, which is really cool. But that involves more of the functional blood work, like that person I was just telling you about. She lives in Wyoming. So where I dive deep into someone's blood work and into their case history and figure out where their foundation is off and help them rebuild that. And so I set them up with usually a 6-month protocol. It can involve some supplements, some lifestyle changes. I try to be very minimal about the supplements because I hated going to, like, I switched to naturopathic medicine, like going to naturopaths when I was pretty young because I wasn't getting any benefit from taking lots of antibiotics from my pediatrician and stuff. But I hated going to the naturopath and coming out with like $300 worth of supplements that were for addressing each symptom that I had. So like, you take this one for your headaches and this one for your joint pain and this one for your digestive issues. I'm like, come on, it's all related. So I like to put together that puzzle and see where everything's all related. So very minimal plans of care, but, and I also try to keep it really simple because if any of you have a struggle with chronic illness, it can be really hard to keep track of a lot of things. So my virtual practice, I like doing it virtually because people can be at home. They don't have to go to tons of appointments, which, when I was at the height of my illness, people wanted me to be at like 3 appointments a week. If you're driving to all that, and it's so stressful, it's just too much. And so people can be at home. We meet on Zoom or on the phone, however they're most comfortable. I set them up with a very simple plan of care, and it has lots and lots of support. So I'm always on call for them. They can call me anytime or text me anytime, and we meet at least once a month, but I check in with everyone at least once a week. Because that was the other piece that was always really missing for me when I was sick, is that support. And I've heard it from so many people. They're like, I just have one question for my doctor and they don't get back to me for 4 months. How is that helpful? It's not. So I help people. I'm very like hands-on, even though it's virtual, but I spend a lot of time with people and want to help them every step of the way and be there for any support that they need. So that's, yeah.
First of all, this is fascinating.
Cool.
Thank you. Do you work with people with Lyme disease?
Yep.
What do you see as the disease? Is it one disease? Is it many diseases? Does it have a solution? Does it have any solutions?
It does have solutions, yes. So Lyme disease, it's not just one thing often. I mean, the people who are most susceptible to Lyme disease are also those whose immune systems are already in trouble. If you have a good immune system, you should be able to fight off that, to fight off Lyme disease and any of those co-infections that happen along with it, which I won't name all of those because there are tons of them. So often, yes, there is underlying stuff that made them more susceptible to being sick. But Lyme, it's a bacteria. It's a brutal one, but there are ways to fight that, and also not just clearing that infection, but rebuilding the whole foundation of that person's health, because that needs to happen too. If they're here, also chiropractic care is really helpful because Lyme disease tends to affect the brain and the nerves a lot. And so I used to just treat Lyme with chiropractic care, but now with all my other tools, there's that. But I do know chiropractors all over the country too, who practice gently like I do, because a Lyme disease person, no twisting or cracking. That's just way too much for them for their systems to handle. So yes, multi-pronged approach, but I have helped people solve it and live great lives after. So
Right,
yeah.
Because nobody else is doing anything great with Lyme disease.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. There's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff that we MDs are mystified about,
Mm-hmm.
and we are trained to give a diagnosis.
Yeah.
And we are trained, as you say, to treat the symptoms. But there are a lot of diseases we can't get rid of. I'm not sure that you get rid of them, but you may be helping people to live better with whatever it is they have. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I don't know like what the criteria is for getting rid of a disease, but if they're not suffering with it anymore,
Yeah.
then there's that. One other quick story. I was working with a 75-year-old woman who just got diagnosed with lupus. She has a history of Lyme disease. I've been working with her for a long time, and helped keep her Lyme under control for a long time. But then she got this lupus diagnosis. So then she went through my functional blood work thing. And one of the diagnostic criteria for lupus is, it's called the anti-nuclear antibody. So it's an antibody that's just working really hard. Anyway, not going to get into all the science of that because that would take a while. But she went through my protocol after getting the blood work done, and her symptoms went away, and she doesn't have the anti-nuclear antibody anymore. So does she have lupus anymore? They still have it on her chart that she's diagnosed with it because she has been diagnosed with it, but she feels a lot better and she doesn't technically have the diagnostic criteria anymore. Did we cure it? I don't know. And it's not me that's doing any of the curing. That's where the responsibility and all the success lies, is in everyone else's bodies, because like I said before, your bodies are amazing. They're healing and they're doing cool stuff all the time. And we can get them functioning better. You can heal a lot better. I'm guessing it's time for questions, if we still have time for questions.
Any other questions? I'm sure actually we all have 1,000 questions. We just don't even know what our questions are. Leslie.
Not question, just
Leslie?
a comment about the wild orange.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a chest cold.
Uh-huh.
Supposedly. Anyway, I can breathe a lot better after having the wild orange.
Awesome. So for those online, Leslie was just saying she smelled the wild orange and she can breathe a lot better, even with a bit of a chest cold after smelling that. And that is a whole other thing that I do, is work with the magic of essential oils, because yeah, pretty instantaneous, right? All right.
Thank you so much. Elizabeth.
And Elizabeth, as I'm sure you know, we'll be making a donation in the name to the Williston School Memory Program. Thank you.
Who did not buy? Oh, Charlie, you didn't buy a raffle ticket. Yeah, I know you. Hey, everybody.